Hey guys, it's carrying my review for the new Amy Schumer film, I Feel Pretty. And what I feel pretty essentially about is we center on this woman named Renee, and she is a little bit more overweight than your average woman, and she is very, very self-conscious about this. She, constantly wants to look like the other women. She works for this, cosmetic type agency, and she's constantly jealous of them. And one day she sees an ad, she's watching Big on TV, and remembers how he was able to, use this machine and basically granted him this wish of becoming big, and she tries to use that for becoming more beautiful. And after having this freak accident during a workout, she starts to believe that she has physically changed and now defines herself as beautiful, and that's basically all I'm going to say. So I feel pretty in general. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was pretty much dreading this movie. I really did not think this looked good at all. I thought it was the complete opposite of where Schumer needs to go in her career. And you guys need to know, I do enjoy Amy Schumer. I really do. I think she does have a genuine future, and I do think she does have potential. The problem is, ever since Inside Amy Schumer was canceled, she has basically, gone the easy route, and now, instead of telling really intelligent, well-thought-out jokes about society, she instead just tells jokes about her sexual experiences, and while they are sort of funny at first, it does get very tiring, and that was my biggest problem, with Snatch, is that at some point it just stopped becoming funny. A lot of the jokes were very repetitive, the plot wasn't interesting, and it just really wasn't that great for her. However, I do think that she does have potential, and I will say, I Feel Pretty is not at all a bad movie, but it's not a very good one either. It is an okay film, and we're going to get into it right now, starting off with the cast. And like I was saying with Amy Schumer, I don't dislike her. I do think that she does, like I said, have potential here, and she actually is pretty good in this movie. I did like the character of Renee overall. The character in general we'll get to a little bit later, but I did like her role in this movie. She has a lot of really great one-liners. A lot of the comedy does actually hit because of her, but also the dramatic moments. I thought she did a really good job with the dramatic stuff in this movie. You can tell she's very passionate about it, and I do think this was a good film for her to make. I do think she does a good job here overall. However, easily the standout of this movie is Michelle Williams as Avery Clare, who, holy shit, if you guys thought that Michelle Williams is just getting typecast as, like, the beautiful woman and, these one-note type characters, just avoid that immediately and just completely remove that from your subconscious, because this really, I think, redefines her and shows how great of an actress she really is. She's playing this character who, like I said, is the head of this, cosmetics agency, and she has this very sort of squeaky voice, and where she goes with it is quite hilarious, and it's so good to the point where you forget that Williams doesn't sound like that in real life. And a lot of people compare it to Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada, and I do think it is a very apt comparison. These two characters, while very different, have very similar traits in the sense where these actresses completely get lost in their characters, and she easily was the standout here. I really love what she did. I thought her and Schumer had really great chemistry, and especially where her arc ends up going, I actually really did like her in the film. She, by far, is the best thing about this film, without a doubt. And then the rest of the cast I thought also was really good. Rory Scovel I really liked in this movie as Renee's love interest, Ethan. He's this very eccentric, kind of nerdy guy who at points did kind of remind me of myself, but I thought he was definitely a lot of fun to watch here. Emily Ratajkowski, I don't know why she's billed as like this huge character, because she's not really in this movie that much. She's just this girl that Renee bumps into a lot at like the store and, during her workout and things like that, and she is very jealous of her because she's much more slim and things like that, and I did think she did a good job for what she had here. Aidy, Bryant, and Busy Phillips I thought were good. Laura Hutton's good, Tom Hopper. There's really not a bad performance, to be honest with you, in this movie, and that's something that I was not only very surprised about, but also was very welcome to. I like that everyone did do a good job here, and I do think that is one of the best things about this film, is that everyone here seemed really committed, and I think it definitely did bode well for the film in general. But now let's get to the directing and the writing, because, like I said, while I think the acting here is quite good, The directing really is not that great. Let me explain. I do think that there is some good things about this directing. It's just the choice to make this a comedy, I think, was a really poor choice, because just the movie in general, it does not work, especially when you factor in the film's message. The comedy does feel a bit insulting at points, it really does, especially the whole thing of her being under, basically thinking that she is beautiful and everyone else is thinking differently, and obviously she hasn't changed at all. The comedy really doesn't work in that aspect. There are some scenes where the comedy does work, particularly with William's character, some scenes between her and Rory Scovel. I did find myself cracking up a bit, but a lot of the comedy does fall very flat, and I just don't think it works very well. However, the dramatic moments in the film, I actually do think do work pretty well. You can see her insecurities, you can see why this is bothering her, you can see the way that she's mistreated and things like that. And the film's message in general, I think, is very well realized. We'll get to that with the writing and things like that. But I do think the drama works very well, and I think this movie would just have been better overall if it would have been more of a dramedy. I'm not saying the comedy couldn't have been in there, because you definitely could have had it, but I feel like the drama should have been just as consistent, because that stuff is handled so well. The comedy just kind of pales in comparison, and it just doesn't really work, I think, as well as the movie thinks it does. The writing as well is very convoluted. For a film that has a very simple idea, it really feels like there were just too many cooks in the kitchen. The movie was written by two people, and it very much does feel that way, because half of this movie feels like your typical sort of, wish upon a star romantic comedy where this girl wants things to go a certain way for her, and they do, just not in the way she thinks, and then she learns some lesson, and it's sort of like a coming-of-age film in that way. And then the other half of the film is like your workplace comedy, and the two halves, as entertaining as both are, which, again, there is some entertaining parts sprinkled throughout both of these parts of the film, just don't really go together. I thought the workplace stuff, at points it felt like a completely different movie, especially when it comes to this one subplot that's just kind of thrown in the third act. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie regarding the workplace that's just kind of abandoned, and they don't really expand upon it a lot. And the problem is that is the main stuff going on in this movie, and it's just not very interesting, the whole thing with her and the workplace. And this is mainly due to the fact that when Schumer starts off the film, they don't act any different towards her than when she suddenly thinks that she's beautiful. They both feel the same way. The only difference is that when she's saying that she's beautiful and she's amazing, they're thrown off because they just don't feel that way, and that she's not as slim and skinny as she thinks she is. That really is the only difference, and because of that, the comedy just does not really work on that front. Williams absolutely does. Her stuff, like I said, is great. The whole thing with her having this voice, and how she shouldn't let that define her, and how she should, be more accepted, people should accept her more. That is a great arc. I really love where they go with that story. I just wish that Schumer's, in comparison, did, because here's my other problem with the movie. Throughout the film, Renee feels very insecure, and that everyone around her treats her in this very hostile way. Now, do they treat her necessarily in a great way? No, but compared to what I've seen in other movies, this really wasn't that bad. It just kind of felt like there were a few, offhanded comments and things like that, but they really weren't anything that bad, and the movie wants you to feel bad for Renee, and while you do, at the same time, you're like, it's not really that bad of a situation. Get over yourself. People don't hate you because of this. Maybe you don't have, you don't have the, you have, you don't have the easiest road and things like that, but it's not as bad as you think it is. And if the movie would have spent more time showing why Renee feels this way, obviously it's because she's insecure and whatnot, maybe I would have cared, but they just don't dive that deep into her character, that the film does come off as very flimsy at points, and I don't think it really did work in that regard. Like I said, everything between her and Rory Scovel, though, is really good. I thought the relationship was very cute at points. I liked the way that he was accepting of her, and I liked the way that he liked her off of her personality and not off of her looks, and that's something this movie does do very well. The movie is very well intentioned, and because that, it's really hard to jab at it a lot and to get really that upset about, because the message is great. The message about how, with beauty comes confidence and how those two things correlate. It's a very good message, and I think especially for women, I think it's a very good message for them, and I think definitely this is a film that women should see, and I can see why so many, actresses are praising this movie because of that. But as good as that message is, just the way it's done in the movie just does not really work. And to be honest with you, there is a part of this movie in the third act where Renee did actually start to become very annoying, and there are points in the film where she just doesn't really act her age. Like, there are things that just she's so oblivious to, and I'm like, really? You don't understand that? Really? This is shocking to you? Particularly seen between her and her and Emily, Ratajkowski's character. I'm just like, yeah, no shit. Like, it was so obvious. For some reason, this was like a big deal to her, and I just didn't really understand that. So, like I said, guys, I feel for in the end, it's a very average movie. I do think the cinematography is good. There's a good score and things like that, but the movie also is way too long. They really could have cut it down a lot. It just doesn't really, it focuses on one idea, but it tries to overcomplicate things a lot. There's a lot of things that happen, and not all of them are very interesting. It's better than I thought it was going to be, for sure, and that's mainly because of the message and how well the romance is done and things like that. But it is a very forgettable movie that I'm probably going to forget, like, the second I'm done with this review. And I am going to give I Feel Pretty overall a C. Like I said, it's well-intentioned, and I do think that women should check it out, but just in general, I don't think it dives as deep into the concept as it wants to, and it just doesn't work as a whole, for me, as I think it really could have. But that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.